Guys, help me get to 100,000 subscribers by subscribing to the channel if you already haven't. Like the video and turn on notifications to never miss another video again. Now let's begin. So let's jump into that topic now that you mentioned that Tyrone is causing incest in the black community, because this is the first time I'm actually hearing about this, but it makes perfect sense because we already know that when it comes to the redneck culture, that's a lot of that, there's a lot of that happening over there. So it makes perfect sense that it would be that it would be very prominent in the black community, especially with these people who are the ones creating most of the problems and disparities. So please go ahead and jump into that and educate us.
Well, yeah, like I said, it doesn't get talked about that much because obviously it's not something people want to talk about. It's a very uncomfortable subject, but especially for the black community, what I have heard black content creators address it. Uh, Sometimes, very rarely, they address it. So what most people don't realize is that okay, you have these little communities, these Section 8 communities, these poor black communities in the United States, and then you have Pookie and Ray Ray going in there, and we already know that 100% of the women are only going after the top 2% of men, right? So it's the same thing with the Pookies and Ray Rays in the black community. All these women are sleeping with the same man or the same two or three men. They're getting pregnant by him. They're having kids with him. Those kids are then growing up older. They're becoming adults. They don't even know they're related to each other. And then because they still live in the same community, they're going to the same schools, just like, you know, everyone else. You go to high school, you get a little boyfriend, you get a little girlfriend, and they don't even know they might be brother and sister because their mother was, their mothers were sleeping with the same Pookie and Ray Ray. So this is another epidemic within the black community that does not get addressed because obviously it's a very uncomfortable topic to talk about. However, it is happening and it's happening a lot. And people don't know. These kids really don't know that they're related.
I mean, what do you think the long term consequences of incest in the black community are?
I mean, well, we have to look at just the consequences of incest in general. I mean, does it cause does it add to the mental health issues that they already have? Or, let me just look it up because to get the facts straight.
Yeah, go ahead and look that up. Let me see here. While you're looking that up, so let's look at this comment while you're doing your research. The foreign pretty says, if he's so hard, why is he scared to leave the country though? Massa take good care of your
Exactly.
Hmm.
No, I mean exactly because it does. Leaving. I've talked to. I was talking to someone yesterday, and they were talking about they wanted to travel, and they were just scared of just the idea of traveling. Is honestly, it's kind of a big deal to leave your country and basically just be immersed in another culture where you don't know anything or like you don't know how things really operate, right? Like with me, even here in the Philippines, it took a few months for me to kind of figure out how things work here. All right, it's not the same as the U.S. Like I was just talking about yesterday, like banking. If I have to go to the bank, I already know I'm going to be spending at least 2 or 3 hours at the bank waiting because the banking system here is not like that like it's not the way it is in America. They're not as trusting here, so they're doing checks, they're doing double checks, they're making sure that you have the money you say you have before they give it out to you, you know. So it takes a while, just things like that. I mean, it takes a few months for you to learn how the country really works. So so yeah, it does take I would say these passport bros who are leaving, especially if they've never left the country before, it takes a significant amount of courage to just uproot to change your life that drastically.
I see this
That's why I'm
comment. Go ahead.
That's why they're doing the research. They're making sure these passport kings are smart. You know, they're doing the research. They're preparing. They're putting themselves in the best possible position they can by doing the research before they get here, and and they're being very smart about it. They're being very calculated about it. You know, so that's why I'm saying these men that are coming here, these are the smart men. These are not the Pookies and the Ray Rays.
Now, and one of the things that I talked about, and this is going to be this is going to be extremely controversial. There was a comment that I got from there was a comment. I pointed out that every time these guys are, saying calling these guys Pookie, Ray Ray, Tyrone, because that's who they are. These are the names in these communities. But really, what it is that it's becoming a form of a slur. And I said that a lot of these guys are going to, you're gonna have situations where they're gonna be women who are going to be on social media that are married to these passport kings, and they're going to be saying a lot of horrible and disrespectful things directed at these women and these men that have targeted them, and they're not going to correct them. And if we look at this comment from Mayumi, she said something very interesting. Mayumi is a physician. Her husband owns a large security firm, and he is an African American man. However, she says that my husband uses the N word to describe, and that's when I say the N word, I'm not talking about the one that ends with A, I'm talking about the one that ends with the hard ER. It's
Mm-hmm.
my husband uses the N word to describe some of the ignorant and hateful among his skin tone. I found it weird when I met him, but his father's Zulu heritage, so these people are from Africa, who came for Christmas, was also using the word. The word used against them was the K word. I will tell my husband to email you that word. Dutch Africans called most South African blacks that word. So, what's honestly, and that goes back to the email that I showed you earlier from that Tyrone that was so angry and demanding that I edit out the word because it's offensive, and I'm really what they know is that these men are basically calling them like, what, that's what you are. They want these men to hurt. They want these Tyrones, they want the Ray Ray, they want the Pookies to hurt. And the educated black men, they're now separating themselves from these people. A lot of these men, they don't even want to be called African American anymore. If you want
Mm-hmm.
to call them Black American, go ahead and call them Black American. But really, they just want to be called American. They don't want to have anything to do with the Black community anymore. They don't want to have anything to do with Keisha. They don't want to have anything to do with Tyrone. They don't care about these people. They don't care what happens with these people. They don't care if the police pick up Tyrone on a bad day. Some cop is having a bad day. He picks up a Tyrone because Tyrone is acting the fool, and this cop just gets angry and lets all of his anger out on him, and he puts his back into it. And now Tyrone is laid up in the hospital crying about how this officer didn't have to do him like that when he was stealing from Trader Joe's. The officer could have just looked the other way, and it wasn't that serious. And there's not going to be any support for these men. They're going to be right out there crying their eyes out because they're not even that hard. It's like you said, the dude in that video that Soraya featured, this dude is not that hard. He's obviously out there in the streets, but he's not that hard. And you pointed out that he'll get turned out
No,
in prison very quickly.
no, look, I'm from Houston, Texas, and we have, and I know you're from New York, so I'm just going to do a comparison. We have some thugs in Houston, right? Who think they're thugs, right? And I tell these guys, I'm like, look, have you ever been to New York? Like, being a thug in Houston is not the same as being a thug in New York, right? 50 Cent's from New York, right? He got shot. Like, have you been shot? Like, no. So these thugs in Houston think they're real thugs, and I'm like, no, you haven't been around real thugs. Like, you have no idea. So one day, if you keep acting the way you're acting, a real thug is gonna put you in check, and you're gonna be holding his pocket.
Dude, I
So
love the way you say this. Like, a lot of these little thugs running around from these little places, they think that they're big and they're bad. I grew up in New York. When I grew up in New York back in the 80s and the 90s, man, I have never seen so many homeless people. That was a traumatizing experience. The things I witnessed in New York. I mean, I went through real hell growing up in New York. And
mhm.
I'm telling you this right now. these little thugs that are running around, they can come to New York, go to Brooklyn, and
Go to Detroit, go to Chicago. I mean, you're gonna recognize real quick that you don't want to be a thug no more. Like you
dude,
thought you did, and you're gonna be like, no, I'm going to church. I need Jesus now.
let me tell you
So
something, dude. Let me tell you, it's not a race thing. They come to these places, and the average white guy that owns a pizzeria, they bring that energy to them. They'll get fixed up on the street, and he'll go to work after go to work after he fixes them up. Like New York is a
exactly,
whole different kind of energy. Like it's a very, very different kind of energy in New York. Like it's a whole different breed of people. It's a whole different breed of people,
I
whole
mean,
different breed of white people in New York.
other than you for a New Yorker, as far as New Yorkers that I've met, you're actually like a little bit more chilled out. Most of the New Yorkers I've met, even if they're not like they're cool people, but just their normal personality is very aggressive. But that's just them being normal. Like to me, it feels like I'm like this guy's being really aggressive, but that's just how they are normally. Because I have this one friend here in the Philippines, and he talks to everybody real aggressively, like he'll get in your face, and it looks like he's being aggressive, but that's just his normal personality. That's just his New Yorker personality. So that's just New Yorkers being normal. Imagine a New Yorker being like a real thug from New York. If New Yorkers are aggressive just normally, like no, like the real thugs, and like you said, it's not a race thing. It's when you live in a community where you have to protect yourself on a daily basis. It doesn't matter what race you are. You got a gun behind the counter, right? You know what I mean? If you have a business.
Dude, there's a
So
there's a video of this guy. There's a video of this guy creating problems in the subway, like he tried to rob someone in the subway, and a white guy just fixed him up real quick. And then they go, instead of arresting the thug, they go and arrest the white guy. Like New York is a very different place. You don't know who you're messing with in New York. These little thugs, these
exactly.
little kids running around, they don't know. They think, they think that life is easy. They don't know. They go into prison and they become someone's girlfriend.
And that's the thing. These thugs make themselves look like thugs. These guys, these real alpha males, they look like regular guys. So you don't know who you're really messing with. That guy could be ex-military for all you know, and he's just wearing blue jeans and a t-shirt. He's got his pants pulled up. He's not making himself look like a thug, but he has military trained skills to defend himself. And these thugs have absolutely no skills. They might have a gun. A lot of these thugs, they have guns. They don't even have bullets. You know what I mean? They're robbing people with guns with no bullets. You know,
Bro,
so
have you noticed the ones, like, even like the dudes who have, like, let's say firearms. Hopefully YouTube doesn't
okay,
mess up.
firearm.
Firearms and ammunition. You look at these guys that do even have, they go and they have these fights with one another in a community, and they start, firing off rounds, and in the end they can't even hit one another. They can't even
Exactly.
fire for crap. They do $100,000-$200,000 in property damage. They hit the mailman, they hit they hit the dog, they hit the grandma, the grandchildren. They destroy the car. They start a fire at a gas station, and somehow they're standing right in front of each other, and they both walk out of it alive and well and healthy. And they feel
Exactly.
like they achieved something. Like they really, like they sent a message. Bro, you just destroyed your community.
You can tell by the way from the videos, by the way they yeah, just by the way they handle their firearm, the way they're moving. That recent video with that guy where they tried to rob him at his house, right? That guy, he had like a cup of coffee in his hand and he had just got home. That guy, you could tell the difference between the way he handled himself and the way he was holding his weapon, that he had training, and the other thugs had absolutely no training. What they were just running, shooting wildly, right? The guy that was defending himself, you could tell the way he was moving, the way he was holding his weapon, he was trained. So there you can see the difference in these videos between the guys who have training and these thugs who just they have no training whatsoever. So, and that's another thing about these real thugs in prison too, is a lot of these real thugs in prison actually are smart enough to get training.
Just to reiterate, if you're enjoying the content, help us get to 100,000 subscribers by subscribing to the channel if you already haven't. Turn on notifications, never miss another video again, and like the video. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. And you ready for it, bro?
Cheers.
Cheers.